Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Swedish on the home side and half American on the away side. Both of these breweries have featured on the channel before. The Swedish brewery is one of my favourites and has been reviewed very regularly over the last couple of months and years, and the American brewery is one that I've had some very interesting experiences from in the past, but they haven't featured on the channel for a good while actually. It must be at least 2.5, maybe even 3 years since I reviewed a beer from the American brewery. So very curious to see what these guys can pull out when they get put together, and hopefully you guys find this review very interesting as well. It definitely sounds like an interesting beer, I think. So for the Swedish side of things then, the home side, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital on the west coast. I really lose track of how many times I say that here on the channel, but we're going to have a look at another beer from Dugges Bryggeri, and this one is simply called the Hybrid One, and it's a collaboration with Stillwater Artisinal from over in the northeastern part of the United States. So this particular beer comes in at 9.5% ABV. It's a sour ale, and it's a lactobacillus sour ale made with Verdeo wine grapes. It's a Spanish variety of grape. It's got cloudberries in it, sea buckthorn, both of which are types of Scandinavian berries, and then it's aged in oak barrels. So yeah, this one should be very, very interesting. Very curious to see how it turns out. It's been a good while actually since I've had a sour beer from Dugges, from what I remember. I've mainly been drinking stouts and IPAs and stuff from Dugges recently, so it is nice to go back to the sour side of things, and of course it has been a very long time since I've had a beer from Stillwater Artisinal as well, so definitely nice to return to these guys after quite a while. It's even been a long time since I've had a collaboration involving them actually, so yeah, I need to see about getting a few more Stillwater beers for you to review on the channel at some point soon, so we'll definitely need to see about that. I'll keep an eye out for ones coming in through the Tillfälligt assortment and things like that in Systembolaget. But yeah, a 9.5% sour ale, this one, with Verdeo wine grapes, cloudberries, sea buckthorn, aged in oak barrels, lactobacillus based, and hopefully this turns out to be a very, very interesting beer. So yeah, let's see how we got on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done both from Dugges Bryggeri and from Stillwater Artisinal. No doubt you'll see more added to both of those lists at some point in the near future. Dugges you will see reviewed quite regularly. Stillwater we'll just need to see. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you, and another one for all the American beers. Both of those lists are being added to very regularly, although the Swedish one more so. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here then, on to my brewery notes. So we'll kick off with Dugges Bryggeri, since these guys are the home brewery. So Dugges Bryggeri, as I've told you before, are based in Landvetter on the outskirts of Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, and the brewery was established back in 2005 in Mölndal to the south of the city by Mikael Engström Dugge. And a few years previously, Mikael had met an Englishman who was selling second-hand breweries, and this really got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he studied up the Swedish alcohol laws, visited various other breweries around the country, and then started building, buying up equipment to put together his own brewery, which culminated in the opening of the first brewery in Mölndal back in 2005. By 2009 though, the brewery had outgrown this facility, and so they moved up to Landvetter the following year in 2010. The older brewery had a capacity of only around 1,500 hectolitres of beer per year, but the new brewery started off with a capacity of 8,000 hectolitres of beer per year, and this has been more than doubled in recent years. And over the years, the brewery have become very well known for their fruit and sour beers, and more recently they've been producing a lot of different IPAs and things like that as well. They've been investing heavily in a barrel aging program as well, which has been, the fruits of that have been very, very impressive, I have to say. But this brewery are also one of the owners of the two Brewers beer bars in Gothenburg, along with All In Brewing, and I believe Mikael's daughter Ida, who owns the Electric Nurse Brewery along with her husband, I believe they're also co-owners in the Brewers Beer Bar as well. So many of the Electric Nurse beers are brewed at Dugges Bryggeri as well. But these guys are one of the most well-respected craft breweries in Sweden. I've had some great beers from these guys over the last while. The last beers that you saw me review from Dugges were the 15th anniversary beers, the stout, the sour, and the IPA. I think the sour was actually the one that I enjoyed most, to be honest with you. I really liked the sour beer there. So yeah, that was the last sour I reviewed from Dugges actually. So it hasn't been too long since I reviewed a sour, but that sour was the first one in quite a while. But yeah, originally this brewery were very well known for their sours and their imperial stouts and stuff, but more recently they have kicked things up a notch with their IPAs as well. But one of my favourite Swedish breweries, not afraid to try different styles, and one that I would really recommend you try if you are interested in Swedish craft beer. So yeah, these guys also like to add some random ingredients and stuff to their beers, but one of my favourite beers, or two of my favourite beers I guess I should say, are the Key and the Sidamo Dim2. Dugges Bryggeri do an absolute beast of a coffee stout in my experience, so I really recommend that you check those beers out. Their coffee stouts are world class in my opinion. But yeah, generally a very, very good brewery, and one that I recommend that you check out. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Dugges Bryggeri for the moment. One of my favourite Swedish breweries. If you want to learn more, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers and things that they've done. So yeah, pretty impressive brewery I have to say. So on to the American side of things then, on to Stillwater Artisinal. So Stillwater Artisinal is the venture of nomadic gypsy brewer Brian Stillwater Strumke, who is a native of Baltimore in Maryland. But he's a former world-renowned techno DJ and producer, and he quickly made himself known in homebrewing circles because of his kind of unusual brewing methods that he had. He liked to add really random ingredients into his beers, wild herbs, spices, wild yeasts and various other things, and he started homebrewing in his backyard years ago, and he's been rated as one of the best new-coming brewers in the world by Rate Beer, which is a pretty good feat actually, and he's remained very high in the top 100 brewers in the world ever since. But he now travels the world doing various collaboration brews with brewers from world-renowned breweries. I think I was reading recently that I think was it 2019 he'd brewed beers in about 15 different countries, which is pretty damn impressive. So yeah, he travels all across the world and brews beers in lots of different places. A bit later though, in 2018, they announced plans to open up a brewery in Greenpoint in Brooklyn, which is where they're planning to invest quite heavily in an old warehouse that's there. They want to create a sour beer fermentation brewery and also open up a barrel aging project as well as a bar where you can have some of the different Stillwater beers. The crowdfunding investment is still underway under Growth Fountain, I think if you search for it, and this bar will simply be called Production. But Brian says this won't distract him from the gypsy brewing activities that he's doing, but it's rather intended to be a tap room and a sort of pilot batch brewery, so he will be doing quite a bit of brewing there, but he will also keep up with these gypsy brewing things that he does. But as of June 2020, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, they've apparently produced 145 different beers, which is fairly impressive for a gypsy brewery. And these guys, bear in mind, came onto the scene around the same time as Mikkeller. But of course Mikkeller went down a completely different route. You know, Stillwater are pretty much focused on sour beers and, you know, random adjunct beers, whereas Mikkeller did a little bit of the sour beer thing, but they also did, you know, the standard IPAs and imperial stouts and things like this. So yeah, it's been a long time, as I say, since I had a Stillwater artisanal beer, but they do have some very, very interesting stuff, and I do need to make sure that I review a few more of their beers for you over the next while, because we do get them fairly regularly through Systembolaget, so I'll keep an eye out for those as we go forward. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Stillwater Artisinal for the moment. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on to the actual beer itself then. I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. As you can see, the bottle is sweating a bit because we've got a very nice warm summer here in Sweden. So yeah, as you can see, very simple artwork on this one. This one is more kind of akin to the you know, this kind of Stillwater artwork rather than the Dugges artwork. Plain white bottle cap on this one, really not much to kind of report on this one. I'm not sure if this beer will be released in the States as well, or if it'll be rebrewed over there or something like that. But yeah, produced in Sweden, hybrid #1, and it should be quite interesting. A 9.5% sour ale. I did find a very nice description of this one on the Untappd page, so let me just read that out to you quickly, because this kind of explains about the beer quite well. So it says here, it started as a discussion between Stillwater Artisinal and ourselves, a discussion on wine, beer and development, a discussion on fruits, acidity and looking at things another way. It continued through creating a method for refinement, a method for sourcing ingredients, choosing them and blending them, and a method for aging them. It finished as this bottle. Its content and the experience it has given us will give you upon enjoying it. A multifaceted labour of love that turned into this quaint little package, parts coming together, almost indistinguishable from each other, yet with the individual importance of a piece in a jigsaw. So what is this then? Well, this is a hybrid, a beer, wine and fruit blend, the result of bringing entities together to form unity, puckering sourness, vinous and the sweet fruity fusing together through time spent resting on wood. There's something in there for the beer drinker who wants a discussion, for the wine drinker who wants to develop, and definitely for those wanting to look at things in another way. So yeah, probably a very, very quirky kind of sour beer, this one, rather than anything else. But yeah, a little bit of wine, a little bit of beer. Who knows exactly what we'll get from this one. We'll just need to see how it goes. But like I said, a 9.5% sour, this one, brewed with lactobacillus yeast, Verdeo wine grapes from Spain, cloudberries and sea buckthorn, both of which are Nordic berries, and then oak barrels, aged in oak barrels. So yeah, best before the 1st of January 2022. So yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting. Very, very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. A 9.5% sour ale. Does it say on here? It just says, yeah, it just says other. It's listed as other. It's not even listed as a sour. So yeah, probably I'll put this one, I'll put the tags for this one as a sour ale. Actually, I'll probably do that. But yeah, who knows what we'll get out of this one. Actually, reviews like this are always kind of quirky. I'm not sure if we should expect a head on this one, or exactly what we should say about this one. But yeah, as you can see, it's poured a nice kind of somewhere between like an amber and a kind of coppery colour. Actually, you could see there was a kind of thin foamy layer of a white kind of frothy head on the beer, but that's of course just faded away to be nothing. But yeah, just basically quite a clear, very slightly hazy light amber colour, this one, actually somewhere between amber and copper, I would say. So yeah, not unusual for a sour beer in terms of its kind of colour and things like that. But yeah, as you can see, quite clear. This one kind of akin to a West Coast IPA in terms of its appearance almost. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that, or the surface of the beer there, I guess, if we can call it a beer. But yeah, it looks really interesting. I'm really not sure what to expect from this one at all. So let's have a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this. I'm really curious about this, as I say. Oh yeah, you can smell straight away with this one. You can smell the oak lying underneath this. You can smell that really smooth, just oaky wood. It's almost got a little bit of that very light, very kind of light, slightly Werther's Original sort of thing there. But it's the grapes, and it really is the grapes, the green. I think it smells more like a kind of green grape, this one. And going by the colour, I think it probably is a green grape. I don't really know so much about wine, but I would assume just by the colour of this that it is a green or a white grape wine, however you want to call it. But the grapes actually smell very, very nice. I'm a huge fan of grape juice in Japan. They've got slightly more acidic grapes over there, and I love them. The Japanese red grapes are beautiful, and the green and white grapes are lovely and soft actually. So you get beautiful grape juices in Japan from different regions. That's really where I get a lot of the kind of my grapey, my love for grapes from. But yeah, the aroma of this one is really nice. Straight away you smell the kind of oak base to it. You can smell the grapes. They come across as very juicy. They've got a very slight acidity to them, but yeah, they come across as very juicy and very smooth. You do get a few kind of gooseberry-like aromas out of them as well. They've almost got this. The grapes in this one really almost have that kind of gooseberry-like aroma to them. You can smell little bits. You can smell a little bit of the tartness, I think, from the sea buckthorn in this one. Sea buckthorn is a very unusual aroma, but you can also smell some of the kind of juiciness of the cloudberries out of this beer as well. I mean, but like I say, the thing that really dominates the aroma here, it's the wood. It really is the kind of oaky, woody qualities and the juiciness of the grapes. But I mean, it really has a little bit of that, it does have a bit of that citricy kind of sour thing coming out of it, this beer. There's not too much to report in the aroma on this one. It's not the most kind of complex of aromas, but it's really layered and very smooth and very nice, I have to say. So I really like how the aroma in this one goes together. But as I say, honestly, not too much to report in the really not too much to report in terms of aroma for this one. But I have to say, it gets a thumbs up from me based on how it goes together. I really like this one. It smells, it really does smell vinous, like they say. It's got a lovely oaky base to it. You can smell little bits from the sea buckthorn and the cloudberries in this one. You get the juiciness of the cloudberry, but the slightly more kind of sharper notes from the sea buckthorn at the same time, and the grapes come across as very juicy, very slightly acidic as well. So yeah, I like how this one goes together. There's maybe a few elements of like a gooseberry type quality in this one, a bit of a kind of slight grassiness as well, but yeah, an interesting concoction, this one, I have to say. Yeah, not really anything more to report on that, I have to say, but yeah, thumbs up for the aroma for this one. So yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy that before you get stuck into it. But we're going to have a taste of this now and just see what it's all about. So this one is the hybrid number 1, 9.5% sour ale of some description, sour ale, wine blend, whatever, from Dugges Bryggeri in Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg here in Sweden, and Stillwater Artisinal, one of the famous gypsy breweries from over in America. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. I have to say, that's nice. I do like how this goes together. It really doesn't fit, on first impression, it really doesn't fit any particular style, to be honest with you. It's kind of like, the best description I can come up with this one would be like, because it's not even, it's almost like a kind of white wine barrel aged fruit beer. That's probably the best description you're going to get of this one. It's not a sour ale in the same, it's not got such a big malty base as you'll get from, say, a Berliner Weisse or a Gose, or even the Lambics. The Lambic beers that you get in Belgium and things like that have got far more maltiness to them. This one is very light and very crisp. It's got the same kind of level of kind of crispness, if you like, as a lager, to be honest with you. But obviously it's a bit thicker and oily, like you would get from a wine or a Japanese sake or something like that. So I like this one. This gets a thumbs up from me. Wouldn't hesitate to drink this again, but it's most definitely a sipper. This is absolutely a sipper beer. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't know enough about wine to tell you exactly why they would choose the Verdeo grape, but I have to say, it does make, drinking this, it really does make me very curious about why they would choose that particular grape variety. And I'm not sure, the thing that I'm not sure about this is that it says that they've used Verdeo wine, it doesn't say they've used Verdeo grapes, so maybe it is a sort of wine, they have just blended the wine together with a sort of base beer, and the cloudberries and the sea buckthorns and things like that. Maybe they have just put straight wine into the barrel before they've aged it. So yeah, I'm not too sure about that, but I have to say, the wine that comes out of this one, the sort of winey vinous characters, is very, very nice. So let's just try and describe the flavour of this one for you a little bit then. I mean, straight away you can feel that kind of nice oaky quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. If we're sitting in the middle third of your tongue, you can feel that lovely just oaky smoothness sitting there. It sweetens up the further you go into the aftertaste. You start to get a little bit of an impression of a kind of like a sort of Werther's Original type flavour out of it. In the middle of your palate, definitely a nice kind of Werther's Original type quality sitting there. And as you move further forward from the very centre of your palate, you do get a few, you can pick up a few sort of slightly vanilla-y undertones to the beer as well, but that's kind of something that you usually get from oak wood. It's got a very distinctive almost vanilla-like taste to it when you barrel age beers in it. Which so this isn't surprising. The flavour combination that's coming out of this isn't surprising, I'll have to say. But yeah, I will say this does get a thumbs up from me. I like how this goes together. As you go into the back third of the tongue, I think there's a little bit of, you can feel a few of the bits of the grapiness kind of coming out of this one. You can feel the sort of woody smoothness just kind of, you know, trickling off a little bit, and it gets a little bit drier, I think, in the back part of the palate. But the malt base, so if you can call it that, the middle of your palate is pretty straightforward, smooth, nice woody notes, little bit of a kind of brown, how do you say, little bit of a kind of butterscotchy, brown sugary kind of thing to this one. Like the Werther's Original is probably a good way to describe it. A little bit of vanilla there, and the nice woody notes. It dries out a little bit and just gets smoother and smoother the further you go into the aftertaste with this one. I really like that base that it's got. But other than that, there's not too much to report in the middle of your palate. Actually, it's very nice. In the back corners of the tongue there's maybe a very, 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 very light earthiness to it. And as you come further forward, you can see there's maybe, it just gradually evolves to be very slightly herbal. There's maybe a teeny little bit of a floral aromaticity on the front corners of the palate, and then round the very front curve of the tongue it is most definitely a little bit lighter and more grassy. The thing to talk about with sour beers is always the transitions that they make. The thing that's really interesting about these beer styles is the way that they make the transition from being really sharp and puckering in the beginning to being really nice and smooth and drinkable, if you like. And this one, again, does that very well. I mean, I know the sours from Dugges fairly well, and these guys have that down to a T. Stillwater, of course, are one of the older boys when it comes to the sort of sour beer category, at least in the new craft world. We're not talking about Belgian lambics and stuff, but yeah, they know how to do this as well. But the thing that makes a good sour for me is having a really nice transition from the sharp puckering notes into the nice smoothness, to be honest. So yeah, that's the thing that really makes me quite excited about, or that gets me excited about sour beers. And this one, when you first take it in, it does pack a fairly kind of sharp citric and sort of vinous punch to it, if you like. But yeah, I do like how that all goes together. So yeah, when you take this one in, you get a hell of a lot of tartness and sharpness from the lactobacillus. That comes in just behind the kind of front edge of your tongue there, and it just rolls out. The beer does gradually get nice and more juicy. There's a lovely kind of grapey note around the very edge of the palate. You do get the nice kind of grapey notes. I'm not sure if this beer has hops in it. It doesn't say on the back, it just says it contains barley malt, and that's it. So I think maybe this beer doesn't have hops in it, but you do get the impression of a little bit of very light earthiness and a very light sort of grassiness around the edge of the tongue. Maybe it's just habit when you drink beers, you know, you just get used to that sort of thing. But yeah, it's got a lovely sharp citric note just behind the kind of front part of the palate. You've got lovely kind of grapey juiciness out of this beer as well. And as I say, the grapes, they have got a little bit of acidity to them, I think, but mainly it's quite a juicy, bright, you know, white sort of green grape you're getting out of this one. For me, the sea buckthorn and the cloudberries, yeah, I mean, if you focus on that front third of the tongue, that's usually where you get the kind of fruity part of the palate. You can feel that the citric note comes in behind the front curve of the tongue, and then you can feel like the citric note for me remains there, but then you start to get the cloudberries and the sea buckthorns. You've got this kind of, it's almost like on the front curve of your tongue, if the front curve of your tongue is like this, it's almost like you've got a line just like this, and that's where the citric notes come in. They stay there, but then at the back and then towards the front kind of tip of the tongue, that's where you get the cloudberries and the kind of sea buckthorns coming out of it, which is really very nice. So I like how all of that kind of pieces together in this one. The way that this beer pieces together, I think, is very nice. The sourness is interesting because you are getting a little bit of tartness from the sea buckthorn and from the cloudberry at the same time, but they add a little bit more of a kind of juicy depth to the beer. That you've seen how long it was since I took a sip of this one. I'm really now starting to get the cloudberries and the sea buckthorn coming out of it, but that big citricy grapey note lingers there, and around the edge of the palate it's the kind of green, white, grapey notes that are lingering there as well. So this is a really, really quirky beer. It's not the most complex of things, if you like. It's all about how the flavours kind of go together. It's got one of these very infused flavours. So yeah, if you like barrel-aged beers, you are going to enjoy this one. And if you like barrel-aged sours, you are going to enjoy this one. So it's kind of like a... It is, I can see exactly what they're saying. It's a hybrid between a wine and a sort of slightly malty fruit kind of sour, if you like. It's a little bit like that. I think that's probably a fair description of this one. A kind of hybrid between a sort of white wine and a kind of barrel-aged sour ale of some description. So yeah, this is a really interesting one. It is a good quality beer. It definitely takes you a little bit of time to get your head around it, but I think this one is pretty damn nice. If you like the sort of vibe that you have from the likes of the lambic beers and stuff, it is kind of like that. It's maybe not quite as sharp and puckering, but it's definitely almost, if you think of like a, if you think of, how do we say, if you think of like a white wine barrel aged beer and you know, more of a fruit ale sour rather than a Bloom of Ice or a Goza or something like that, that's probably a good place on the spectrum to place this one. It's definitely got beer qualities to it. It definitely has a bit of wine quality to it as well. It's almost a bit more winey in the mouth feel actually, but this one does get a thumb up from me. I do like this one. So yeah, let's have a look at the mouthfeel then. Let's talk about that and round off. So yeah, I would say that this beer, you know, it is fairly kind of mid-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth. It's really got quite an oily mouthfeel, but at the same time it's quite slick. It really feels more like a wine in terms of its mouthfeel, to be honest. But remember, when you barrel age a beer, that's always going to thin out the mouthfeel a bit, and that's really what creates the infused flavours here. In terms of bitterness and things like that, this one I think is pretty much 0 IBUs. I don't think, it doesn't say on the back that there's hops added to it, so I think it's probably a 0 IBU beer, but you do get the impression of a little bit of earthiness and a little bit of slight grassiness on the edge of the tongue, but the sort of malty part of the palate there, at least the middle, the smoothness there is really nice. It's got a lovely kind of, it's got a very slight sweetness to it, as I say, a wee touch of a kind of Werther's Originally note, a little bit of vanilla, kind of oakiness from the wood comes out as well, so you've got that nice smoothness and slight sweetness out of it, but you've got a lovely kind of sharp tartness and sharp kind of quality in the beginning. It juices up a little bit, it gets a little bit more kind of juicy and berry-like the further you go into the aftertaste. But like I say, a very, very quirky beer, this one. You can pick up the alcohol in this one, you know, 9.5%. These kind of sour beers, they do struggle to cover that a little bit, but I will say it's a really solid, it's a solid, very, very quirky beer, this one. So, you know, if you want something a bit different, as they were saying, have a go at it for yourself and just see what you think. But big thumbs up for me, definitely cool to return to Stillwater Artisinal after such a long time, and you know, I know to expect a good beer from Dugges, and these guys together have pulled off something that I think is very, very quirky and very interesting. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the hybrid one, a 9.5% sour ale from Dugges Bryggeri here in Sweden, up in Gothenburg, and Stillwater Artisinal, a gypsy brewery, now looking to set down roots, of course, in over in America, based first off in Baltimore, Maryland, and they now seem to be based up in the sort of New York, Brooklyn area. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Dugges Bryggeri and from Stillwater Artisinal. Like I said, you will see Dugges beers reviewed very regularly on the channel. Hopefully I can get some more Stillwater to review for you at some point. It's been a long time since I've done a dedicated review to these guys, but yeah, I hope that I can review a few more of those for you at some point soon. But thank you again for watching. Check out this beer if you get the chance. Let me know your own thoughts on it in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Dugges Bryggeri and from Stillwater Artisinal. We will return to both of these breweries soon, as I said, but thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The hybrid one, a 9.5% sour ale made with Verdeo wine grapes, cloudberries, sea buckthorn, aged in oak barrels, and it uses a lactobacillus yeast. A really interesting, very, very quirky beer. One of the quirkiest beers I've reviewed this year, I would go as far as saying, but I like it. Just be aware that if you try this one, it is a bit of a sipper. Enjoy it with a friend, maybe. Share this one with a friend. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, make sure you check out these breweries. Cheers.